Hey, folks, welcome back to the Workgrid. Today, we have a bit of a special treat for you. It's season two of our holiday special and wrap up. And today, we're bringing back some of our favorite guests from 2024 to reflect on some of their achievements, some of their insights, I mean, sprinkling, of course, a bit of holiday cheer. So, a time for celebration, reflection, and maybe even a few laughs of moments that have shaped the digital workplace, workplace technology, AI, and a bit of their journey. So we have a fantastic lineup today of voices joining us to recap this year, discuss their lessons learned, and get a glimpse, of course, of what's ahead in 2025. And of course, I'm joined with my partner in crime here and co-host Frank Pathiel. Frank?
Hey Rob, thanks for inviting me back. It's always great to wrap up the year with you. And can I just say that the podcast has been amazing. I love the traction. I love the conversations it kicks off. I love the way it engages the market. And we're going to get into it, but I think this form of communication is the future, and it's kind of indicative of how the world wants to converse with each other. So
Hmm.
always happy to be back for the end of year special. It's and candidly, it's an excuse.
It certainly is. Frank, do you have enough Christmas decorations?
This is box number one. There is other tree. I have a small condominium in the city,
Yep.
and we have more trees than bedrooms. Yeah, yeah. It's a problem here, and it's not mine.
That's
Tuesday.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm of course in the throes of kids, so we put Christmas pretty much everywhere. Even sprinkled itself into the bathroom where we have a giant Santa who's kind of like, illustrated, washing his back with bubbles all around him and everything. It's a bit much. It's a bit much. And hey, look who's joined us here, Guy Batista. Guy, how you doing, buddy?
Morning. Doing well. How about you?
Not too bad. We were just talking about Frank's I don't know what you'd describe it. He's got Christmas all over
It's
his
Christmas?
it,
Really? I didn't notice that.
Don't look behind you, Frank.
Yeah, this. On weekends I like to be a mall Santa, except the mall won't let me back in. So.
Good on the mall, for sure.
Guy, looks like you got a nice new office.
Yeah, after 11 months and 3 weeks in the making, I'm finally in my new
Not
dedicated
not not
office.
that you were counting.
11 months, 3 weeks, 4 days, and 17 hours. Yeah. No, it was quite the ordeal to get the addition done, but nice to have a dedicated office that's not shared with a guest room and a drop zone of all the kids' stuff. So very very nice to have a dedicated space. And
I do
yeah,
feel like the guitar in the background is like this is going to be like next year's TikTok trend of office spaces. I have a little bit of a interest in office backgrounds, and I do think the guitar or guitars, I know a couple of people with multiple, is like the go-to. It's the one. Oh,
Oh,
now you're just flexing. Now you're just flexing. Yeah, I think that's the go-to, and acoustics too. You were like you're like a troubadour, a minstrel.
yeah,
but can you
yeah.
play them?
So there it is. No, I can. I started playing guitar when I was 15. So I play guitar and I play drums to take out my frustration. So I play drums really well. And I play a little bit of piano. So yeah,
All right, Rob.
I
Next
don't
year we're
have
just
I don't have my piano set up.
next year we're just going to have a Guy on for the whole time, and he will just play people in on the acoustic guitar.
A Zoom jam session?
No,
Yes.
no, no. I'm thinking more like Paul Schaefer on the Letterman show.
Just
I
play
like
people
it.
in.
Just play people in. Yeah, occasionally we'll talk to him.
I
That'd
like it.
be that would be nice. That'd be nice. So Guy, when thank you for coming on to the show today. And I think we had you on mid-year, in fact, talking about Facebook migrations. How has 2024 fared for yourself and your team at Agora?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, right? I mean, all the years have been interesting, but it's been an interesting year with the rise of AI. I remember this episode last year where we talked about sort of the introduction, or introduction in air quotes, of AI. It's been around, but it became sort of the go-to for all of the intranets, and we certainly saw that trend this year, which made implementations interesting in a couple of ways. Made them interesting in the sense that we were trying to implement AI features sort of in mid-flight. It also made it interesting in the sense that customers had varying degrees of understanding of what AI was and what it could do and how much
Hmm.
it would help them or not help them. So navigating those conversations made for an interesting year. And then on top of all that, we had the workplace sort of announcement, right? And that certainly led to sort of a mid-year scramble where all the different companies I work with decided to say, well, what now? How do we get a piece of this pie, right? So
Hmm.
um, those were probably the two memorable events of the year that really caused some sort of shakeup. Other than that, it was relatively steady and stable. We saw a better sort of influx of work that was a little bit more consistent,
Hmm.
which to me means, we kind of, last year there was this trend of return to office. It continued through this year, but I think this year, companies still started to understand, regardless of whether they're going to be hybrid, fully remote, returning to the office, that a form of a digital workplace was going to still play a part in their strategy, right? So that's kind of what I took away from it.
Tell me about the AI piece, or where you're seeing in your conversations with your clients. Are they starting to get it? Are they still kind of poking around the periphery? When I go to events, oftentimes I see IT. They're certainly worried about security, management, access of information, et cetera. It's the risk profile, right, of introducing new
Mm-hmm.
tools and paradigms into the workplace. And then the business seems to be, well, either very hesitant about what use case or really not knowing where to go. Have you noticed a shift or change in that mentality, or where do you find clients' heads to be today?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? I think that really is sort of what we're seeing. Certainly from the IT side, there is that hesitation because of the security implications. They really want to understand, what are you ingesting? What are you going to do with that data? Who else
Mm,
sees that data? Um, and furthermore, when your AI engine is spitting back information at me, where are they getting the context of that? Is it from my competitors? Do my competitors see what I'm seeing? So there's a lot of those questions, and I think what's been, uh, and I'm going to say this carefully because I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here, but because things are moving very quickly, um, no one seems to really know the full answers to these questions, right?
Well, they
So
can always
we
ask
have a lot of,
ChatGPT for them. So
you can always ask ChatGPT for them. That's correct. Yeah. Um, so from the IT perspective, there is that security hesitation for sure, and I think it's warranted. Um, from the business side, we see really kind of two different approaches. There is the gung ho, give me all the things all at once, and I'll tinker and figure it out as I go approach. Um, and frankly, in that case, they really don't know what they're looking for. They just want the shiny new toy. Um, and not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but we want to caution them to say, listen, this is a new tool, but before you just kind of spring it onto everyone at the organization, maybe come up with a few use cases that this could address, and let's really talk about the value proposition here. And then there's the other side of it, which is, we have a lot of customers now who really just want to understand what it even means. Like, what is AI from what we're saying, right? Is it just a chatbot? Is it generative, AI with smart answers? Is it a writing assistant? Are you creating images for us? Is it all of the above? Um, and then finally, how does it help us, right? So those are the two sort of different sides we're seeing. We're seeing very little in between. We're seeing very little folks being like, yeah, I kind of sort of understand this. We're going to release it in waves, in phases. That's what I'd like to see, right? I'd like to see people release some of these features in phases as they come to understand not only the functionality, but how the functionality can help. We're seeing little of that. So we're having lots of conversations with customers to try to set that up, right? To say, when we hear something that's interesting, like I'll give you an example. We had a customer who, really wants to include graphical elements with all of their content, right? They find this to be important. I agree with them. It is important from a adoption engagement perspective. Images tend to drive more engagement than non-images. And when they started talking about the fact that they really didn't have any source of imagery, they became interested in the AI image engine, right? They're like, well, that's an interesting use case. But then we came up with prompts for it.
So they're creating content, and their hope is that they can, at least, instead of having to go hunt, find some stock imagery, that they could perform Gen AI based upon the content, that it's at least partially engaging to enrich what they've created. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. And then where we sort of guided them a little bit is, depending on which department was creating the content, we came up with a set of essentially scripts to prompt the image engine to say, if you're in HR, start with asking for X with Y hex code colors and Z sort of imagery, so that they could get some form of consistency throughout the departments. We talked about this, right? In any sort of internet vendor we've worked with, being able to differentiate use case content using imagery and graphical elements, right? So with AI, we're doing that, but we're doing it using prompts instead.
So it's really just kind of a pragmatic way to start. You've introduced chips into the Gen AI conversations. Basically you're saying, this is the way you engage with Gen AI. You've essentially created what looks like a form. Start with these three things, and the engine knows how to go build it. You've essentially built, and this wasn't the definition before, you've built an agent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially. Yeah, it's worked well for a handful of our customers. So,
are you finding the demand for this is coming from the business and they're pushing it forward in those cases, or do you find how does the IT business relationship work in these cases? Is the business saying, I want to do this, and IT is saying, great idea, we'll help you? Or are they doing it? Are they moving around and through and avoiding an IT conversation in order to go get this off the ground?
It's interesting. The customers that I'm working with right now are probably on average between 1,000 and 2,000 users. So not necessarily massive, right? Decent user base, but not huge. There tends to be an IT person in the room from the very start. So we're not avoiding that person. They have their questions, but they've already been introduced and, for lack of a better term, kind of warmed up to the conversation. The push is not coming so much from inside the business as much as it's coming from our sales team, right? Or I should say the vendor's sales team. Look at all these cool, shiny AI features. And the way they demo it, it makes the business say, I want that. And then they're already kind of warmed up and primed for that conversation when we come in the door. They already know what's going to happen. IT's already basically asked a lot of those questions. Some of it will spill over. Some of those security questions spill over into the implementation phase. And they want, a full security package and some technical conversations. But for the most part, those conversations have been had. So really the push is coming from, from the vendors saying, AI was the hot new thing this year, and we have it. So you should go with us. And
we've sprinkled some AI on our product over here, and
correct.
Yeah.
A lot of times the business, we are not seeing, our customers, prospects coming to us and saying, one of the core things we're looking for in an intranet is AI. We're not seeing that. Right? What they're still looking for is the same thing. They're still looking for a way to organize their information, get resources in front of folks. Like, it's the same it's a new version of the same stuff we were talking about 5, 7 years ago. Yes, they want the features and the integrations and all that stuff, but no one's come to us and said, hey, if you don't have AI, it's a deal breaker, right? That's been from the vendor side saying, here's this cherry on top that I think you guys would really like.
Because
the trying to figure out a way to differentiate it.
Because the customers don't know what to do with the AI. Like it really
Correct.
is the vendor that's coming to them with that, hey, you can do this. And people are going, oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense, right? It's going to lag in the RFP. We're not going to find it there. The vendors are going to try to push their value prop by adding in new elements of AI to differentiate themselves. And then the customers are kind of in the middle. That's what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do suspect that that equation will shift over time, right? And customers, as they begin to understand and evolve and just become smarter and more intelligent around what they can do with AI, will start to ask not so much for the AI, but more for how can you address this use case using AI, right? I think, and I'm excited for that because that means that then the vendors and the engineering teams can start really taking some of this, really cool, exciting new functionality and taking it to task, right? Start making it address actual use cases as opposed to just here's a feature, right? And here's something that a sales guy figured out how to do with it, or a sales engineer figured out something neat to do with it, right? So I'm excited for that shift to happen. I think we're probably still another 12, 18 months away from that. But it'll be cool to see that happen and to see developers latch on to that feedback from customers and start to be able to feed in that change so that we can go to prospective customers and say, hey, look, here's something we've heard from a lot of our other customers about what they'd like to do with AI, and here's how we're addressing it using AI, right? That's what we're not seeing yet.
Very cool. So as you look ahead now into 2025, what are some of those big plans for Agora?
Yeah, so with Agora right now, it really is continuing to, and it's funny. I think it's going to be sort of a repeat of what I probably said this time last year, but it's continuing to be able to aid customers past this implementation phase. So one of the things that we've gotten really good at doing over the last 4 years is, getting customers from that, that alpha beta phase where they just purchased a product and want to understand it and make it fit into their communications landscape and strategy, getting them to that launch point and then saying, okay, you're good to go now, right? What we have not been able to do as well as I'd like to do is to sell in a way to stick around after that point, right? We haven't been able to really, and it's difficult to convince customers that the hard work is after that launch point. It really comes after you flick the switch, right? That's really the focus for 2025. It has been the focus for a while. We've made some inroads, but it's still been difficult to kind of get, not necessarily the business to understand that that's going to be true, but to get the money
to fund it,
pay for those services, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that we continue to kind of come back to and say, look, you're going to need the help. Now, there are some customers who have come back maybe 6 months later, 8 months later, and said, shoot, you were right. Where do we sign? But at that point, they've made a bit of a mess. And then we have to spend a little bit of time cleaning up their mess before we can get into it, right? So what I'm really focused on is trying to find the right stakeholder in your organization, not just from the business perspective, but from the monetary, the budgetary perspective, right? To be able to say, look, here's what's going to need to happen after your launch to be successful. I'm not talking about a successful launch. I'm talking about a successful, implementation and life cycle. Exactly. Yeah. And we, frankly, have not found the right people nor the right way to have that conversation yet. So that is something I'm focused on for 2025.
So it was very interesting when I went to HR Tech in Vegas and I walked around because it's what I do, trying to find possible companies that we want to partner with. I saw a bunch, And we have traditionally kind of had this conversation in the context of communications. And I saw a lot of HR companies now starting to talk about comms and messaging in the context of return to work, in the context of being in better employers, being retention and stuff like that. Are you still focusing kind of the conversation on the intranet owner? Or are you seeing what is indicative in the marketplace that I have been seeing is that HR and HR ops and HR IT are starting to take more control of this, and this is becoming a them thing. Um, is that where you're seeing from? Are you seeing that from the Agora perspective, or is it still where you kind of come in with the aid of one of the primary intranet vendors typically?
Yeah. No, it's actually really interesting you mentioned that. I was having this conversation with my team the other day. We have certainly seen a shift where really before the last 6 to 8 months, I'd be willing to put money down on the fact that who'd be running this would be someone in corporate communications, right? Every once in a while you get some HR, maybe some IT, but for the most part, this was coming from corp comms. In the last 6 to 8 months, we have seen this shift in HR. We actually wanted to go through and count how many of our implementations currently are being headed up by HR initiatives as opposed to by corp comms initiatives. And we're currently running 26 projects now. Of those 26, 18 of them are HR initiatives, fully HR initiatives. A handful don't have corp comms involved at all. And we've been talking to some of these HR leaders and asking them, we know that HR has always had a part to play in the intranet, but why have they taken this lead all of a sudden? And the overarching, sentiment seems to be that HR leaders understand that with the environment now, with return to office, and sort of this, the Great Recession isn't, or excuse me, the Great resignation is no longer such a thing, but people are still jumping from job to job a decent amount. HR departments are trying to tamp that down, and they've really gone from focusing on recruitment to focusing on retention. And this has been one of the few technical tools that they've been able to hone in on and say, this is a tool we can use. They have all the other tools for benefits management and their HRIS information and all that good stuff. The internet seems to be the only tool that they have been looking at and saying, this is something we can actually use to make a positive difference from a retention perspective. They haven't necessarily found out the ways to do it, the pinpoint the ways to do it, but they've taken a renewed interest in internet software to do that. And I really think it's just this focus on retention and making sure that people stick around. Budgets aren't there, so they can't necessarily throw bonuses
Money at them,
folks.
Yeah,
but they can create a culture.
So it's the intranet as cultural flypaper.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And when they take that approach, Guy, have you noticed that are they coming at it from a classic intranet perspective, or are they washing it with HR content, assets, items, meaning it looks more like a HR portal as opposed to what would be your classic intranet for communications, engagement, et cetera? Like, are they bringing other stakeholders to the table to make sure that it's more all-encompassing, or does it feel like it's more, hey, this looks like a HR storefront?
Yeah. No, it is absolutely bringing in other parts of your organization. So HR is really trying to build an office space digitally, right? And what's funny is we've seen organizations that I would call, that are in what I would typically call traditional industries, machinery, like heavy machinery, for example. We're working with one right now. We're working with another that's a credit union. These tended to be more conservative in their intranet approaches, very top-down communications. Here's a resource. I don't want you commenting. Let's not even talk about communities of practice or employee resource groups. We're seeing a major shift there, right? I have that heavy machinery company right now. They have an entire site just dedicated to new members of the company family, where they just post baby photos of people who just had babies in the last couple of months. So they really are trying to create this sort of more, this fuller picture of the employee, of the company, to a degree, humanize everyone, the organization itself, the departments themselves, and it's an HR push, right? And HR has now become bolder to go to leadership and say, look, if you're not gonna keep people around with money, then you got to keep them around by keeping them happy in some way or another, right? Make them enjoy going to work, so they're not always just going to an HR portal or just looking at whatever the latest corporate news is. Let's also give them something, light to look at, right? And that'll help retain. It's funny because it's conversations we've had before, and it was always hard to convince customers of doing that. And now you're seeing customers a little more open to it, where they're like, yeah, okay, it won't hurt. We have the internet. Let's try it, right? So we're seeing a lot of organizations shift towards, when we used to talk about tentpole use cases being your corporate comms, your marketing, your finance, your HR, we're seeing more and more an employee resource group or a community of practice be sort of nudged in there as well. I mean, like, let's include this one because this is an important thing that we were doing in Slack or in Teams prior to the internet, and we want to keep it alive in the internet, right? So it's no longer a throwaway use case, which has been interesting to see as well.
That is interesting. So who's on your naughty and nice list for 2024 for workplace tech?
Let's see, naughty or nice list. I think the naughty list really is all the internets that are continuing to push AI and don't really know what they're doing quite yet. I don't blame them for it. I'd be doing the same thing if I were them. It's not making my life any easier though. So I'll just kind of blanket statement on that one. I won't.
Oh, you mean it's the AI? Yeah, it's got some AI.
Hand waving.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hand waving
Right.
AI. Yeah.
Hand waving AI.
It's using AI not only as a buzzword but as a sort of catch-all for everything, right? And I mean, no one even knows exactly what they're talking about or how to define it. So that's just been an unfortunate sort of part of the year. And then I'll say not necessarily the naughty list, but what I thought was very interesting and I hadn't seen before, so worth mentioning is when Workplace did get shut down. I had never before seen the endorsement of another company to go to, right? So Workplace endorsing Workvivo, I thought was a very interesting move. Still not quite sure why they did that. I would be interested to figure that out.
You don't have any theories? I have theories.
I certainly have theories.
All right, cool. This is time to break into the conspiracy. I mean, they're both Bay Area. They're next door to one another. Zoom and Facebook are both, big.
They're going to the same dinners.
Yeah, they're at the same dinners. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This was brokered at a Starbucks in Santa Clara.
But that still doesn't answer the question of why, right? I mean, unless of course Facebook is getting kickbacks for it, and even if they were, would it be worth it? Or is it just I'm doing a friend a favor, so I have a favor?
I bet you I'm doing a friend a favor. I mean, I would look back two layers to a VC someplace or a shared technology platform in there's a do me a solid here, I'll hook you up with there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's the Chicago way.
Yeah, it absolutely is the Chicago way. That is for sure. Yeah. You know what? I don't know if there's anyone on my nice list, Rob, to be honest with you.
One of those years. There is. No one's on the nice list.
I finally got jaded enough in this space.
Pete Batista with a mountain of call.
No one's been naughty enough to drive me away yet, but yeah.
What do you think the future of the intranet is? Do you think what do you make of things like we've talked about AI a lot? What do you think about things like composability, which is kind of a Gartner keyword where they're talking about little composable experiences and bringing experiences in other places? I don't want to lead you into an answer, but what do you think of the future of the intranet? in light of these
I
things?
think that the future of the internet will be largely modular. And what I mean by that is that it will no longer be this destination, but instead a series of functions, actions, you know, content that'll be consumed in different ways in different places, depending on what your role is and where you sit and what you're interested in, right? So, and I think we've seen this with other technologies as well, right? Not just the intranets. I think Slack is a modular experience in many ways, and it was born out of being included in other things. I think we're seeing Microsoft do similar things. So I think the internet will largely become modular. You'll see this sort of fragmentation of use cases, and each use case will have its own app or experience or function. Inevitably, it'll probably over fragment, and then it'll kind of coalesce again in some way. I don't know what that'll look like, but I do think there will be a period of fragmentation at some point. There has to be. I don't see any new internet vendors coming out of the woodwork in the next 5 years. I mean, there'll always be a few, but nothing that'll be transformative or really kind of, disrupt the internet space as in the way that in the way the internet exists today, right? I don't see a simpler 2.0, for example, coming out and really revolutionizing the way internets are done. I think it's really going to be something that'll be more of a fragmented approach by a series of different organizations and companies out there.
Well, we saw WorkVivo bought by Zoom. We saw Waves a couple of years ago where staff base went in a buying spree. Do you think consolidation's coming?
Yeah, like I said, right? I mean, I think it'll be either consolidation to fragment, or it'll fragment and then coalesce, right? So I don't know which order to go in. But yes, something's got to give, right? I mean, the space cannot exist in its current form for much longer. I think that's been true for a while. I think it's probably overdue at this point. I don't know how many organizations out there, how many companies with money even have an appetite to go out and purchase intranets the way that they currently exist, right? Which is, if they do get purchased, it'll be to break them up and sell them as individual packaged modules, right? So it'll be interesting to see what that happens. But yeah, I don't think we're going to have, kind of what happened with Jive, for example, where it got acquired as a company and then kind of died off, right? I'm not sure that'll happen. But we might see someone buy a company like a Lumaps or a Simpler, one of the leaders in the wave, if anything, just to take a successful piece of their software and say, let's offer this and take out everything else, right? I could see that.
The mythical swoop in by Workday that everybody kind of thinks about.
Yep.
That hasn't happened. Sounds like a myth at this point. It's what
this is Christmas. It's all about belief, Rob.
This is true. This is true. I was going to make some sort of analogy related to bedtime stories to scare digital workplace leaders at night.
Yeah.
Is Workday the pumpkin that turns into a carriage?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to save that for the Halloween special, maybe.
The Halloween special. There you go.
That's right. I was going to do a Halloween special this year in lieu of the holiday special, but Q3 is just so jam packed on people's calendars. It's like December makes the most sense, right? You've either closed your deals, or you're getting ready to, or you're already shifted into neutral.
Hey, it's in the best tradition of Sports Center, which runs top 10 lists while everybody is on vacation for a full week. So this is when people expect this stuff.
That's right. Guy, any fun holiday traditions for you and the family?
No, we keep it pretty standard. We do a cookie day over at my parents' house with the cousins, and that's always a fun thing to see over the years. It'll actually be tomorrow for us. It'll be eighth or ninth time we're doing it.
Nice.
So it's been fun to see, the cousins kind of go from, literal babies all the way up to, the oldest now will be, Sophia will be 12 this month. So, it's been fun to see that and, see them all kind of get together. It's one of the nice things about, having all the family close by, right? The only reason I say it's okay I left Chicago is because I'm close to family. If not, I would have still been there. But yeah, that's the only one we really kind of do.
Hey,
And then it's all about survival.
You got green grass and sunny weather. I can point you to gray skies and like bitter cold outside. So don't worry.
There is that. I do not miss the cold. That is absolutely for sure. It is 23 degrees here today, though. So, it is kind of cold, certainly for Charlotte. So
That's 23. Oh, it looks sunny for 20. It looks pleasant for 23. Yeah,
it does, right? Yeah, even our cold is more pleasant than Chicago cold.
I would go out in shorts like that there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we got snow on the ground here. The kids were very excited to get it just a couple inches. So they've been gunning to go outside, but they couldn't go outside for recess. And it's one of the joys about living in New England, and it's also one of the pains.
yeah, I hear that.
Should we hit Guy with the big question, Rob?
Which one's that?
Oh, number 8.
Oh boy, yeah, because I always have some primers. Just in case. What are you most grateful for as the year comes to a close? That's a big one.
No. It's Christmas movies.
Oh, yeah, that's more fun.
Yeah. Guy
I was gonna
Batista,
say, man,
we're gonna put you on the spot.
okay.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
That was quick and uncategorical.
100% it's a Christmas movie. It happens around Christmas. He's trying to save Christmas for everyone in the office. It's just, it's saving Christmas on steroids.
So you're saying it's Rudolph with guns?
Saying it's Rudolph on steroids with guns. Yes.
Rudolph steroids with guns. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
When you think about it, they
100%.
haven't made anything like that recently that I can't remember. The only one I can think of that's
what?
become a tradition. Think about it. The only one that's become a traditional Christmas movie. Like they make Christmas movies every year, but one that actually like gets replayed over and over, like A Christmas Story always gets replayed. You're gonna shoot your eye out, kid. Elf is the only one I can think of in the last like 25 years that's like you're gonna find that on TBS probably 24/7. Right?
Yep.
Can you think of one that's in the last 10 years that's been made that is like part of, your Nick at Night?
More recent than Elf?
More recent than Elf? No, because Elf is just at that line that you can still show it to children.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Die Hard is violent, but not violent. Like you don't see it. It's not quite as
I'm not showing my kids Die Hard. Yeah.
Yeah, probably not yet. Next year. Next show, so is Andrew. Once he's 10, I'm like, all right, kid, you're ready. Let me show you the best Christmas movie ever.
No, Bad Santa is the best Christmas ever.
You know what's funny? I've never seen Bad Santa.
What?
Really?
That's it.
I've never seen
You're
Bad
not
Santa.
invited back until you've watched Bad Santa.
I will watch it before next year's episode, I promise.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Definitely not for children.
No.
I've heard it.
No, you might need to go to church when you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that came out at least 10 years ago, right?
Oh,
15.
That's even older.
Yeah.
2012. Someone asked
Yeah.
ChatGPT when Bad Santa.
There's no way you can make Bad Santa in the last 10 years. It's that wrong.
No, it's like Tropic Thunder, right?
Yes.
You could do the movie today.
And that'd be the last movie you ever made.
Bad Santa was 21 years ago.
Wow.
There you go.
Yes.
So Bad Santa can legally drink now. Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't think of anything after Elf. Elf is probably the last sort of classic Christmas movie that replays itself all the time, for sure. All right, gentlemen. Well, I got to run because I'm still working, unfortunately. But always a pleasure. Always love the conversation.
Absolutely.
Great to see you, Guy.
Thanks for stopping by, buddy.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Alan, thanks for joining us today in the holiday special of our podcast. Frank and I have this one question we've been asking all our guests during each of their stepping into the room here, and that is who's on your naughty and nice list for 2024?
At which given moment am I allowed to talk about my children? No.
We're trying to keep this about work.
No, my children are wonderful. My children are wonderful. It's Monday morning. I'm just thinking I just got them off to school. My naughty and nice list for 2024. Naughty list is still generically the overarching industry when they focus more on their own commercial interests than the best for their customers. I'll take that ambiguous point and I'll get it somewhere. We all know we're on the dawn of this new era of, okay, wait, is it 30 seconds in? AI. Has any guest said it in the first 10 seconds? AI.
Of course.
My issue with what I'm seeing is I have a fear that we have not learned from the past, from email to calendar to tasks list to project management to 3D worlds to blah, blah, blah. I feel there is a fear that we are going to build too many silos again. That
competing AIs.
Companies are going to lock things down to not integrate and talk to each other at the goal of their own commerce engines, as opposed to the betterment of making these things work. That is currently my non-PhD level naughty list. I hope those that are listening that are out there respond back to me and say, no, have you seen so-and-so standard, so-and-so framework, so-and-so platform that is going to make all these wonderful things integrate and talk to each other? Would love to see that, would love to learn that. But that's my naughty list. Frank,
so
I think...
so pragmatically, we're starting this call a couple of minutes late, Alan, because, pardon me, you got the invite. It was an Outlook. And you jumped into a room.
I did.
Because Outlook told you. And it was in
Teams, Microsoft's product.
And we're recording this in
Zoom, a competitor's product.
Right. So I 100% agree with you, because that is a little bit of AI technology that is, 75% working for you and 25% going back to Seattle and saying, you know what? I have an opportunity to screw Zoom. I'm going to take it. Yeah.
Software does not take our best interest into account way more often. It does things wrong more often than it should. This isn't about Mobeus itself, but just as a background, 4 years ago when our co-founders, Richie Echuaro and Mike Sutcliffe, founded Mobeus, the goal wasn't a product, it wasn't a platform, it wasn't a technology. It was to improve the way people interact with technology. Very broad, very big. We're not here to talk about what we're building specifically today. But that was Richie's major frustration was, at the time it was 2020, 2019. It's like, why is technology not working better for us? One that drives me nuts. All of us, probably you as well. We use multiple emails, multiple calendars, multiple web conferences a day. Every one of them has the same button in a different spot. The compose button in Gmail is the bottom right inside the task list. The compose button on another one is in the top right corner, blah, blah. I honestly feel the developers and designers purposely map out what all the competitors do and go, we will not place our buttons in the same spot that our competitors do. Because God forbid anyone has muscle memory where something works in a product. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Sorry.
It's the war of UXs. I mean, I think this is part of the reason that internally we kind of came to a decision. It was roughly 5 years ago this day, that we weren't going to have our own URL, because we don't want to defend a URL. We want to be where you are, trying to make that place better. And where you are, which is hopefully better, is the one that you liked, because you have your compose button where you like. And people are going to work where they're going to work, and I think, and the way they want to work. No amounts of UX design is going to, it's not really going to change that.
Yeah. And obviously, as we move to more voice navigation and other styles of more modern navigation. We have been wed to the keyboard and mouse for, someone's going to fact check me, 40 years now. I forget what the exact date of the Windows icon mouse pointer interface
Yeah, that sounds
created,
right.
some 40 odd years from now ago, since we've been doing this for 30 some odd years, and it was here before I got here. So we are in desperate need of a shift in the way humans interact with technology. We are going that we are very nascent in that right now. We are not even remotely mature in that world right now. And it is extremely exciting for all of us to be part of this. I think this is going to be, I think it's rejuvenating a lot of our excitement about the software and tech industry and things like that. We've been a little stagnant on some of the things that have been going the last few years. I am psyched for the next 10 years.
So can we put this on the podcast? So it is December of 2024. Alan Lepofsky predicts the death of this. Is that your prediction for 2025? Is that we're going to see a remarkable loss of keyboard usage over time?
I will go with, we will see a remarkable drop in keyboard usage over time. 2025, this will still be sitting on my desk, but it 2035 it won't be. So sometime between that sort of time frame, we will have a more human user interface, things that take advantage of your hands, your head, your body, your eyes, your movements, your voice. If Elon Musk has his way, your thoughts, that type of thing. But we will definitely move to a more intuitive user experience. I also think we'll move to a more proactive user experience, one that doesn't have to just wait for our input, but that will reach out to us. It may not have the answer. It may say, of these three choices, which do you want? So immediately we'll be able to say, I want to do 1, 2, or 3. Alan, your morning is starting. Which of these 3 things do you want to act on? One could be a task, one could be an email, one could be a web conference, or whatever holograms exist.
And our phones already kind of do that, right?
They
What do you think?
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, what do you think the barrier is between us being okay with our phone doing it and us being nervous about work software doing it?
The accountability of getting something wrong at work, if you're a sales rep, if you're a marketing professional, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, we've already seen cases of lawyers going to jail because they used AI to create briefings that didn't exist for cases and things like that. And thankfully, I wouldn't want that person as my lawyer. You don't want the doctor who has to rely on ChatGPT to get you an answer. You do want one that's going to speed up and augment their capabilities and help them read charts and things like that. But I think, to answer your question, we tend to think of our devices still a little bit more in our personal lives. I know there's a million people that argue with me, say I do my complete job from my phone. Sure, you possibly can, but I think the separation, let's say, instead of device, let's say, why do we trust these tools in our personal life more than our work life? Again, just the accountability of error is less. And that may change. The last thing you want to do is, send your significant other the wrong message or something like that. So we will see. But I think there's enough excitement building of these tools to improve our lives in so many ways. It's cliche to fall back onto our children, but I see the way they are starting to interact with things. The user experiences they have in games like Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft and these things are not award-winning user experiences by any means, and they can navigate these things with such ease. I see some of the menu structures my kids look at in Roblox, and I want to cringe. I'm like, you have 87 different options around this block, and like it's ugly, and they don't care. They just work with it. So I think in our there's a different kind of standard that we've grown up with work.
Well, they live in a different world now, right? Like they are used to they're used to just saying, "Okay, Google," and then just asking for something, and a fact gets spit into the air in the room around them, and that's I mean, if you think about that, what's going to be the implications of those employees, of those people when they go to the work world? First of all, cubicles aren't going to be. Not only that, cubicles can't work.
No, it's
How?
you can't have everyone talking out loud at all times.
No.
Oh,
Let me tell you a quick funny story about OK Google. My kids are young now. They're 9 and 7, so this was probably at least 3 years ago. So I'm going to estimate that my son was 4. And we're a Google home house. We have lots of OK Googles going on here. They say OK Google for alarms. They say OK Google for weather, things like that. I don't think at 4, well, I don't think even at 7, he understands what Google is, this big autonomous
Mhm.
company in the cloud that's doing all this processing. He thinks that device on our countertop is Google. He
hmm.
thinks he's talking to it like you talk to his dog. He's asking that thing. So we're in my car one day driving, and I'm an Android user. So my phone is also OK Google instead of Hey Siri. And he said, OK Google, and he asked my phone a question. And it took me a minute to realize that he thinks my phone was calling Google at our house and getting that thing to talk to him, just like calling my wife on the phone to get an answer. He thought he was calling Google and getting a response. It was mind blowing. I loved it. Oh, can hear one of my devices going
Yeah,
off.
there we go. We're going to do this podcast with your OK Google next to you, kind of answering some of the questions. Um, it's an amazing world that we're moving into now, and I know that some of the things you guys are doing over at Mobeus are very interesting. About yeah, look, honestly, just your website is kind of
Mysterious.
it's very mysterious. It's very mysterious. Yeah. I keep searching it for hidden Easter eggs. I'm convinced there's a pixel. If I click it, something will happen.
There may be. Let me
Yeah.
tell,
Okay.
I will tell your viewers a little bit. We are still relatively in stealth mode. Um, if you look at my LinkedIn channels or some of our others, you will see things that around the Salesforce Dreamforce timeframe that we put out into public. We are essentially creating new experiences, like I said earlier, for the way people interact with technology that will involve a variety of new technologies that will enhance the way they work. That's very ambiguous and generic, but we're not making a this. I can't tell you that we're making a this. We create spaces where sales and service and education can interact more naturally with their hands and their bodies and their voices, can interact with helpful agents that user experiences of those AI agents can improve the user experience. We bring in enterprise data to those experiences. So that's some of what you'll see publicly in our LinkedIn feed today, like a telecom communication experience, buying a new phone or a device in one of those experiences with enterprise data, with digital assistants. But first quarter, mid next year, you'll see some really interesting things coming out of what we're doing. Like I said, it's nascent and it's an exciting time. Imagine being on the teams that built iPhones and iPads and said we're creating a new experience that people are going to touch and they're going to swipe and they're going to do all these things, and it felt foreign and crazy at the time. I love when the things we do feel foreign and crazy because I know they are going to be the standard 5 to 10 years from now, which is super
That's
exciting.
very exciting. That's
Especially
very
the,
exciting.
the humane tech approach that you folks have had since your inception. It's gonna be really interesting to see where you guys land over 2025. Um,
We will not do anything that's frustrating. It's too much in the core of our DNA.
that's awesome. Yeah, now, Alan, you were an analyst for a number of years, covering collaboration spaces, digital workplace, et cetera. 2024, of course, was the year of AI, if we can put it that way. It's on
Of
the
course.
tips of everyone's tongue. What are some of your thoughts there in terms of its evolution, at least over the last 2 years, and where we are today? What have been some of your thoughts and reflections over the last 12 months?
Fantastic. Let me think of it. So when OpenAI first came out, obviously it started the tidal wave,
Hmm.
and they weren't the first to AI. They were the first to like get my mom to ask me a question about what AI was.
Hmm.
Obviously, those of us have been doing things. We've had, voice dictation and other things for years and years. I'm not going to go down that road of pontificating about how long AI has been around. OpenAI changed everybody's perception of it. Let's
To
just agree.
change the narrative.
Yeah, let's agree with that. Just because the billions alone got everybody's attention. I think the biggest thing that's changed in the last year is going from that was a standalone command line prompts. We're not allowed to say command line anymore. A standalone prompt that is still relatively geeky to use, to us seeing that technology more in the back end and developers leveraging, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Midjourney, whether it, whatever tool they're using, image generation, video generation, text to speech, whatever it happens to be. I think it's built into the Microsoft platform. It's built into Google platform. It's built into small enterprise startup platforms. We're able to use those backend tools now and surface it more. So you guys talked about not wanting to defend the URL. I love that. Put things where people are. I think that has started to change. I don't think as many people that originally the first month or so signed up and loved to go to ChatGPT and ask it questions need to do it now. Everywhere I go, if I'm in a LinkedIn post, it says, do you want to use AI to rewrite this? Facebook posts literally say, do you want, Meta AI to rewrite this for you? So I think the earliest shift we've seen is that AI has gone from a destination to being embedded in more things. It's pretty hard to find a tool now, whether it's because of the need to jump on the bandwagon for marketing, or in better cases, validity that it does make your experience better. They've brought that AI directly into it. Think about the shift of having to go to Midjourney to create an image to now being able to be in Adobe suite of products, having your image there and expand out your borders and it auto-fill them in for you. So Adobe's done a great job of saying, don't leave us as a destination, work inside the tools you already know, and we'll bring the AI there. I think that's a necessity. I don't think anyone outside the tech geek community wants to go to a URL and type in a prompt.
No, as long
I mean,
as it's done right.
Yeah, but it's also a huge security issue, right? I mean, the prompt interface is also the hacking interface. The interface that you type in that innocent question is also the one that you can use to. It's both the programming interface and the user interface, and that's a bad mix.
I always say this is my naive Canadian input. Imagine if the effort and resources and time and energy that went into doing bad things went into doing good things. I remember I gave the silliest example at a keynote once as an industry analyst. I said, if all those people that were trying to hack into things, if you defend them and you tell me that hackers do it for the thrill of being able to accomplish it, not the thrill of actually causing damage or something, but most hackers want to see if they can do it. Hack into my Roomba and clean my house for me. If the goal is to see what you can accomplish, then do something good. Don't break into baby cams and steal images in the middle of the night. Hack into my refrigerator and improve the efficiency. It's just, I wish the goal of these hackers was just to fulfill something and that the adrenaline or endorphins of causing ill wasn't so powerful. That's
Release the Roombas.
Here to defend humanity today, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to go against human nature, Alan. That's we were all delinquent teenagers once. Some of us just never got out of that phase, I guess.
I may have hopped a fence once or two in my life for sure.
There you go. So what's the biggest lesson you learned from, I mean, as an analyst who's kind of moved into another role at a company itself, you were looking at digital workplaces before, and then you've moved over. What do you think the biggest trend was from shaping 24 and 25? And let's pretend we take out AI for a minute directly. What do you think it is? Actually, let's make it a two-part question. Coming from 23 and heading towards 24, what do you think it is?
Yeah, I actually have an answer for this based on history and experience as an analyst and being in collaboration for a while, and as an end user. I am frustrated by the suite of tools we use keep expanding the number of apps required to accomplish something. Every time, and you can choose whichever big company you want, from Microsoft.
Well, let's pick on Microsoft.
Microsoft's easy.
As an end user, anytime a new shiny object appears, got its own icon. Like it takes 83 tools to have a meeting today. And I'm surprised at the lack of learning over the years to do that. Like everyone's getting their act together. I want to say it is positive. Microsoft 5 years ago had 12 different task lists. They now, may have one or two, and it's improving. But then the next cool thing that comes out, they put in another app, and then they put in another app, and it's not just them doing that. And I just find the learning curve, because as we were mentioning, oh, was this pre-call or recorded? If it was not, if it was pre-call, we'll get to this topic in a minute. Just the inconsistency in user experiences, where a button is, how you hit new, where you hit delete, how you file folder things, blah, blah. It's different in every app, even from the same company. And I'm just like, why don't you have a standard that in your apps, the top right corner is the new button every time?
What do you think? I mean, these result eventually, and we were talking about this in the pre-call, was technology silos.
Yeah.
What do you think? Both the response. What do you think the when do you think the pushback will come from the larger market saying, "I want these silos to cooperate"? And what do you think the response is going to be from the big companies? Because, like you said, we're going to get to 50 apps soon on our desktop just to start a meeting, and they're going to come from 5 different companies.
Yeah, it is tough. Standard pushback obviously comes from wallets.
Yeah.
We stop spending, people start listening. We are held hostage to some degree, whether a small startup I work at now, or I've worked at IBM and Salesforce, and so I've worked from 20 people to 400,000 people. I work with Accenture on a daily basis now with 700,000 employees. So whether it's a small company or a large company, we're held hostage by the basic infrastructure components you need, email and calendar and messaging system. If we've moved off of email and we're using more of a Slack or Teams or whichever messaging infrastructure you're using, the HR tools are still relevant. Payroll is still relevant. Invoicing is still, there's a variety of tools we have to use through our day. And they are not where they should be in going into 25. I was about to say 2024. We're almost in 2025. It's disappointing. And why aren't the big companies fixing them? Because they don't have to, is one thing, which, is unfortunate. They should take more pride in wanting to modernize these tools. Baggage. Privy to some of the work I had done with Microsoft as an industry analyst, not 3 years ago, 5 to 8 years ago, whatever it was now. It's been a while since I was there, so I'm not breaking any NDAs. They know this. They know that there is a legacy baggage in the Office suite infrastructure, plus SharePoint, plus project, on and on. It's huge. There has to be a time frame where enough of us that use the old tools are gone that the new tools can come in. So they're doing some wonderful things like Microsoft Loop, bringing it in. I don't think it has the traction that, at least I don't see it in my day-to-day life. I'm a sample size of 1. Maybe you two can help me. We'll get to a sample size of 3, but nobody sends me a link to a Loop document. They still send me a PDF or a Word doc. Like, I haven't had anybody send me a URL. There's the Notions and Codas of the world that are doing a great job at reimagining how we would build software today if we weren't constrained to the, I used to call them digital canvases when I was an analyst. They're more, a infinite ability to embed different types of content. We don't think slide, spreadsheet, presentation, et cetera anymore. It's nice that we can embed these things. But I do believe that a lot of cooperation in the industry comes more out of the necessity of sounding good than the desire to actually help customers.
Yeah.
I think some of these CEOs like to talk on stage about, hey, we've got an upcoming integration with so-and-so. It'll be available in 8 to 12 months. And they get a big splash, and 2 CEOs at a big conference will say these things, and those things never come to fruition. Like those integrations never happen, or things like that. So I've seen that multiple times. I do think as we shift to devices, there's a need. There will be a future where our user experience follows us It won't be different on our phone and our desktop and our car's dashboard and our refrigerator and our glass shower door. And, there will be a future where our technology follows us and is consistent and is helpful and allows us to get things done. I'm confident in that. I think there's enough people with amazingly wonderful intentions. We're saying some negative things about the industry. I do think there's people with wonderful intentions. I look at this is a weird shift. I apologize, but
Wait, weirder than technology on the glass shower door?
it only looks one direction. It's only you can see the information on the screen. Come on, your
Sorry,
best
Alan.
ideas don't happen in the shower. I always get my best idea. I'm reaching out. I've got a piece of paper out on the counter out there. That's where our best idea. It's because we're focused and there's less distractions. Whole nother podcast, people. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Alan.
I love it.
You're about to finish. You're about to finish a thought. I got hung up on it.
No, I got it. I want to do a really significant positive. I think the world of accessibility is going to significantly be enhanced because of technology, because of the ability to use screens and voice and touch and user experiences that are newer than what we have today. Whatever your impairment or challenge happens to be, if it's physical, if it's sight, if it's hearing, whatever it happens to be, I think we're on a massive verge of technology that there's wonderful people out there focused on helping the visually impaired, the audio impaired. And so if we can have money removed as a barrier and get things to people that need them to improve the quality of their life, then man, that's a technology company worth working for. Like that's, I applaud the people that are doing that. That was a weird rant. I apologize.
I think it's a good one, certainly for kind of reflecting on 2024 as a whole. Alan, we always have our one last question for our guests on the holiday podcast, but I always let Frank tee it up because he's very passionate about this question. Frank, go ahead.
Alan, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I'm so scared what you're going to... I may have an answer that nobody else has asked for you. And you're going to have to Google it because I'm not going to get the exact... You got two guys wearing elf hats. I apologize, I didn't wear mine. Die Hard is a Hanukkah movie. I challenge you to prove me wrong. Go look at it. It's a band of evil people taking over a location where a small army of people fight back and take control back. That's exactly the story of Hanukkah taking over the synagogue and the candles lasting for 8 days and blah, blah, blah. Go, I'll find you a URL. We'll add it to the case. It's really fun, obviously coming from a Jewish guy. But whenever we talk about of course, Die Hard's a Christmas movie and it's fun. But there's a bunch of great breakdowns on the internet that Die Hard is a Hanukkah movie.
Really?
Wait, what was the name? What was the name of the? What was the name of the fort that the Israelis defended up on the mountain? You're saying that's that basically?
Masada is what they defended.
Masada.
But you go, what is Die Hard? I want to get into politics and religion. It's an evil German guy attacking. That's who he's fighting. I forget what his name's, Hans something or other, blah, blah, blah. There's all these great breakdowns that Die Hard is the perfect Hanukkah movie.
That's funny.
That's funny.
So I might have thrown you a twist there.
We might need a poll when this is all over at the end.
But here's an awesome fact if your viewers don't know this year. For the first time in 40 years, Hanukkah begins on Christmas Eve. So we will be all celebrating together on December 24th. Isn't that cool?
Now, cool. If you've been raised Catholic like me, you're pretty sure that that's something in the Book of Revelations and the world is going to come to an end.
No, we're all going to unite. Not the world's going to end. We're all going to unite. It's great.
The end of my book is a lot darker than yours.
We live in a very, obviously I live in Canada outside of Toronto, very, very multicultural environment here, which I feel very blessed to be part of. And, this year it's going to be a lot of fun to have everybody sort of celebrating together. And I wish everybody peace and health and happiness on this season, filled with technology and cool tech gadgets. We may not have time to cover it on this podcast. Put in the comments, everybody, your favorite tech gadget for this holiday, I think would be fun. Whether we're doing it on your show, put it on the Workgrid social responses, wherever you're posting this video. But I need some good gift ideas under $20 for tech. So.
We got a couple of ideas
Fantastic.
for you, Alan. I'm sure we're going to be bringing you back in the spring,
Let's do it.
provided you guys haven't gotten too large and too important for us. I mean, might have to wrestle you away from I don't know, Rogan or the Kelsey brothers or something like that. But yeah, we're always welcome back, I'm assuming.
As long as I don't have to fight Jake Paul or something, I guess I'm okay. Like, I don't know.
That'd be good marketing ploy for 2026.
Hey, you'll be $20 million richer too.
Yeah, I'd take the punch. Let's go for it.
Awesome. Alan,
Guys, happy holidays. Good luck
Happy
to you both
holidays.
personally
Likewise.
and professionally. I hope 2025 is awesome for you guys. Let's do some things together. And thank you for having me on.
thank
Awesome.
you. Dante, thanks for coming on to the show today and joining us for our holiday special.
Thanks for having me, Rob. It's great to see you guys again.
Good to
Great
see
to
you
see
too,
you as well.
I love the festivities in the background. You've outdone me. I thought by maybe wearing my T-shirt I'd be in good shape, but I love it. You guys are impressive.
For what it's worth, I followed it with my favorite Christmas movie of all time, the underappreciated Bad Santa, Billy Bob Thornton.
They all can't be winners. I love it.
Exactly.
We were
How have you
actually
guys been?
riffing
Good.
about that just an hour or two ago with one of our other guests who we were talking about has there been a memorable Christmas movie in the last, what was it, 20 years that has become a tradition? You know how a Christmas story is a tradition. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Or, Elf, I think, is the last modern movie that is part of, like, you'll find it on TBS at any point in time.
Should we? First of all, it's interesting. I have never seen A Christmas Story.
How?
I don't do black and white movies.
It's not black and white. I think you might be thinking of something else.
Which one's A Christmas Story?
You shoot your eye out, kid. The BB gun.
Yeah.
Red
The
Rider.
kid who wants the BB gun, yeah.
Oh,
Maybe you haven't seen it, but it's not
I haven't seen it.
Oh, wow.
I haven't seen
Great.
it.
It still holds up. I mean, it really is great. And at this point, I think you'd watch it and you'd see all these references and go, oh, that's where this is from. Like, oh, that's where that's from. Because the number of pop culture references to it now, as after the fact, is just like, right? Like the leg lamp. And I mean, there's some of these things, you don't have to say anything and people know exactly what you're talking. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
Frank, you got to add that to your list.
I gotta add that to my list. So there's my holiday tradition.
But
Frank, you want
think you're right,
to
Rob.
ask your classic question that you asked to everybody?
Dante,
Mhm.
is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. That's my opinion.
Man, everybody is quick with the yes on this.
Yes. That's like a thing in our house. My daughter and I, it's like every year. I'm like, Ellie, we're watching Die Hard. She's like, I can't wait. We're watching Die Hard.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
do you view it as like a modern take on the Rudolph story? Outcast there on Christmas when their special skills are required to save the day?
Right. I don't think of it like that. Like, I love that we take a conversation like this seriously. It's just like, that's the fun of this. Because like, to me, the criteria is, does it take place during Christmas? And does it make me think of and sort of feel like it's Christmas time? And how do I feel watching this movie any other time of year? So I can think of two of them, Die Hard. And another one is Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon, the first movie, takes place during Christmas.
Well, so wait, why is Lethal Weapon not thought of as a Christmas movie?
Probably because, I don't know. It's a really good question, Frank, because I think of it that way. I say to my daughter, like, we got that. And for some reason, Lethal Weapon, which is sort of the sleeper.
So here is my theory, because I'm whatever this word is with conspiracy.
Tinfoil under the hat.
Yeah, that's me.
Right.
Yes. It was not a movie. It got originally, Hollywood started one, probably Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because it has spawned all those movies where a very muscular Santa Claus character must fight off terrorists. There's been one of those released every year for the past, like, at least 5 years,
What were the other ones? I remember
there's one just came out. Then there was another one. There was one a couple of years ago. But there's been a bunch of them. It's basically Santa, well-armed Santa, fights off somebody and then delivers toys.
Yeah. I just like that it takes place during Christmas. I have to say, for me, especially when I was a kid, like I would, during the Christmas season, these movies would come on and there's Christmas music throughout it. Like it's actually got, the weather outside is frightful and these songs like during the credits and stuff. And I'm like, it just makes me think of Christmas. So I like to watch it during the Christmas season. And I find that if I put it on in March or April, I'm like, I don't know why, but
It's wrong.
I'd rather watch it during Christmas season. That's just me.
Going forward, when I ask this question, I'm going to follow up with part B. So is Lethal Weapon a Christmas movie?
Yeah. I'd be curious to see how many people are like, oh, I don't know. Does it happen during Christmas or something?
I'll admit, I had no idea that it took place at Christmas
Same.
until you told me that.
Yeah. And it's got Christmas music like throughout the movie.
Does it? Oh man,
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
to go back and watch it now.
If you remember the opening scene where you meet Riggs, he's he's undercover, right? And he's supposedly buying drugs from these guys. And they're in a Christmas tree, like whatever,
Farm?
They're like as a guy selling Christmas trees on the corner. And then they end up in a whole gunfight, like through the Christmas trees. He's like, you buy this and I'll throw in a tree for free. I don't know if you remember that, but now you'll see. You're like, that's right. It's the whole thing takes place during Christmas.
I'm watching it this weekend. That sounds awesome.
There we go.
You'll be reminded how good that movie was, man. They don't make them like that anymore. They really
They don't.
anymore.
They
We
really
sound like a
don't.
bunch of old men now, but I suppose we are.
Now we are.
We're getting there, old enough. So
We should.
Rob, your question was, I think, a good one, which is I tend to agree with you. I think of Elf as the most recent sort of modern classic I can think of. Christmas Vacation sort of became one.
Yeah.
A Christmas Story. But
Elf.
Christmas Vacation, like you can find it just about any, on any channel. At any point.
Throw Mama from the Train briefly had a bit of a run.
Is that during Christmas, that movie?
Isn't it?
Maybe. I don't remember.
What was the one? Was the one with John Candy? No, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That's what I meant. That's what I was thinking of. Planes, Trains, and Automobile had a run.
He's getting home for Thanksgiving in that movie. So it sort of leads right into Christmas. So that makes sense.
I have this all right. Home Alone. Oh, Home Alone. Yes, Home Alone and Elf.
Yeah,
Kind of side by side. Yes.
Yeah.
Dante, you're probably deadly at trivia night.
I'm pretty good at trivia. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Especially around that time frame. Yeah. My wife was like, your brain is chock full of like really useless trivial information. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of true.
Dante Raggazo, repository of useless.
Yeah, correct. Proudly. Doing my best.
That's a business card right there in the making.
So Dante, who's on this is another question we tend to ask our guests, and this is the second season of our holiday special. But who's on your naughty and nice list for workplace technology, the digital workplace for 2024?
That's a great question. Okay. So I have a thing brewing in my head right now. So I'm going to go with, on the naughty list, I'm going to put the concept of the one-stop shop.
Oh.
Like I'm just thinking about that concept, and it's just been, I think I'm actually, like, I feel sort of an article brewing. I think I'm going to write something for.
So no truth in the advertising of the one-stop shop. Are we thinking about consulting companies, or are we thinking about software products, or just the one-stop shop in general?
Digital workplace, right?
Yeah, like I'm thinking about the digital workplace, and just everybody wants a one-stop shop. Oh, we want a one-stop shop for policies. We want a one-stop shop for your HR information. It's like, right, I got a dozen one-stop shops. So guess how many stops I'm making? It ain't one, So I think that we have to kind of break down that idea a little bit and maybe rethink. I'm thinking much more now about, and you guys are actually hitting right on this with Workgrid, just aggregating all the stuff in the background. Let's stop trying to get everybody in the same line on the same platform and so on and so forth. And let's come up with something that can just aggregate it for me and then send me wherever I need to go, but give me enough useful information at the high level that I'm like, oh, okay, I don't need to go anywhere.
Okay.
That makes sense, right?
Okay. So it's not necessarily bring it to where I am. It's tell me where to go and just route me around.
It's kind of a bit of both, right?
It's both. Okay.
Right. So I hate to say that it could be like the idea is there's not one stop shop, there's a whole bunch of places you're going to have to go. But this is sort of the directory, the
Okay.
dashboard, if you will, right? And it's going to show you some high level information that's going to let you know, out of this system, here's like some data that you might
Want.
be interested in, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking about, again, how does Workgrid work? It's like, this is either something you maybe should know, or it's, hey, here's something you have to do. So I'm going to put just the one-stop shop in the naughty list this year.
All right. So who's on your nice list?
Yeah, that's
Well, I want to drill into this a little bit more because it's interesting,
Mm.
Dante. The one-stop shop. I've
Mm.
seen that kind of rise and fall over the years. And it sounds like there's energy coming back into that being like the fever dream of the digital workplace. We got this one big monster blob container where everyone can get everything, do everything, perform everything. So you've seen a lot of energy around that as of late, it sounds like.
So can you just clarify what you just said a little bit more, Rob, about one big blob? Like,
Yeah, the one big monster digital workplace that serves all, does all, is everything to everyone. Ultimately.
Microsoft, everything will be in Viva. Everything will be in Teams. Everything
Microsoft
will
will serve all your needs from
yeah,
end to end.
but Slack, in fairness, Slack has pitched the same message. Sometimes they say everything you need is on your phone. Some of the search vendors will say it. That sort of idea. It's the idea of a single portal. You go to this one place. Enterprise search is classic. One stop, the one stop to stop them all.
Right.
Yeah.
And I get that. I can understand how you should be able to search across. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I love that
Yep.
idea. But
Yep.
that should kind of be wherever I am, or at least I should have the
Yes.
option to do so. So I think, Rob, yes, the concept of one huge thing to me is like I'm letting go of that. I think for me, and I think a lot of it has to do with my personality, is there's a simplicity in everybody's in the same place, and therefore less complexity, fewer integrations you need to worry about, fewer things you need to maintain, fewer issues that bubble up because the data coming from here to there is not quite right. Like just all that goes with connecting systems. Now, having said that, right, and so I'll dovetail this into my nice list for the year. For me personally, the nice list this year were two things, and I'm sorry if this is a little cliche, but this is really the truth, which is humility and gratitude. We had an interesting year where we were sort of going back and forth with another team on trying to decide what our solution was going to be and how we're going to break down the different needs of the different audiences that we have. And I had sort of one point of view, and there were teams with another point of view. And at the end of the day, we're going with the other team's point of view. And it's fine. I think once I really absorbed it and I really considered everything that they're doing, I thought, okay, actually, if I rethink it, there's an opportunity here. And so I think it was really good for me to just have that time. So I'll just say both of those have been really helpful for me, I think, with the challenges I've had this year and also the successes.
That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been an interesting year. Candidly, this was a year I expected we were going to be deploying our new intranet. Like, that's what I thought I was doing the entire 2024. And most of 2024 has been the negotiation and the back and forth of trying to decide which direction we're going to. Now, we are going forward in 2025, like we're teed up for January.
Oh, wow.
Which is great. Yeah. So like we're there, but it's been a year of just hand wringing and, challenging conversations and back and forth and, all that goes with trying to communicate and clarify your idea and your vision to decision makers fairly and objectively, and trying to retain as objective and fair a perspective on what other people are proposing as well.
In the year in the year of the internet deployment that wasn't, did the mix of people who came to the table and the issues that they brought and the priorities that they were looking for change and evolve? Like, as we head towards January 1st of 2025, is who cares about the intranet and why different from the same question for January 1st, 2024?
It's still the same people.
Okay.
And I think going into the year, you don't know what you don't know. And so I think going into 2024, we didn't know that there was another vision and another initiative, and so by the time we realized, like, hey, hang on a second, that was like January, and that began the whole, wait a minute, you're doing this, we're doing this, wait, what's your vision, why, and that became the whole year. So I don't think the players have changed, Frank. I just don't think I knew who. I don't want to say I didn't know these people were players. I knew that they were players and significant decision makers. I think what we had was a difference of visions mixed in with a lot of circumstantial changes. Let's not forget that in this past year, we were, I think, when the year began, expecting to acquire another company, a significant acquisition,
right?
Which, of course, was like, wait, hang on, everybody pause.
Yeah, I mean that has a reason to stop, right?
Yes, and it's like easy to overlook that, but that was a huge thing, and that wasn't just hang on. It was like, hang on, how would you handle this now if we go into this other situation? Look at your timeline. How would we how would we roll things out if this becomes the circumstance? So there was all that mixed in as well. But I think, Frank, to try and get back to your question, I think that basically that we just have not all not all customers is the wrong word.
Stakeholders.
Thank you, stakeholders. Don't get older. Not all stakeholders are equal.
Yeah.
We might like to say that they are, but the reality is some control significantly more influence. And
they all can't be winners. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it comes down to like money, and then who's successful and who isn't, and who has the money to spend. And if you have the money to spend, some dude in the comms team is not going to step in front of your. I mean, he can try, but he's going to get smashed when he steps in front of your freight train. And you're like, no. This is going to make us this much money. We're going.
Is it operations that kind of has picked up more power, or is it HR?
It's operations. The truth is, I don't think they've picked up more power. I think they always had.
They're exerting the power that they've always had.
No, they generate the revenue, right? Yep. And so it's like, I recognize that's where my bread is buttered. So at the end of the day, like, I want them to be successful. And so when I said humility and gratitude, it's like, I've been hearing one thing from the audiences that we both serve. You've been hearing something else, or at least something in greater depth, and you have a different vision for how you want to go about it. I live in a world of controlling costs, very cost conscious. And, is it necessary to spend that money? When you are in marketing, or I shouldn't single out marketing, when you're doing anything that's revenue generating, it's a lot less of a concern. Like, you're much less worried about that, because you're like, yeah, this might seem like a lot of money, but I can turn it into this much more revenue. Okay. I mean, it's like, okay, fair enough. We're going to see. We will see. I think we all have the benefit. I'm going to assume you guys have the same benefit that I have in my experience, which is to say, I know the difference between what they show you in the sales pitch and what you actually get. And I know that there's questions that you should ask that you would never know to ask, but you'll find out. And
you're putting us in a very awkward position. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
so keep going. You're right. Yeah.
And it's not, again, I'm not trying to imply that people are lying. It's not about that. It's just about not knowing what you don't know, and not knowing what challenges are going to happen when you work in an enterprise space. And so you are familiar with the entire ecosystem and things that have to be right in order for the demo that you're seeing to be what it's demoing. I look at that with one lens, and there are senior leaders who look at that with a completely different lens, because they don't know. You know, they don't understand all that. So,
And you've secured a lot of technology over the years too. So you know the game that's kind of being played out, and not that there's malicious actors, but
no,
they're
no,
they're coming to the table with their best foot forward, their best pitch, their best demo. And of course, if you don't see a lot of that, you haven't secured a lot of technology, you may not necessarily know that it's like an iceberg, right? There's a lot
exactly.
underneath. You got to peel back and be hard on to make sure that whatever technology you're bringing in is right for you.
Very well said, Rob. That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. And all I can say is I'm going into this, I'm like, look, I could very well be wrong. And so like we're going forward. So I'm just like, I'm not going to fight it. Let's accept it. Let's embrace it. And then let me rejigger the vision. So that's what we've done. And I hope that, again, like the humility to find it and be like, all right, I need to stop. Like I need to recognize what's happening here and rethink how I approach this.
Mm.
And I asked a couple of good questions, learned some things. I'm like, okay, actually, that's an improvement, and we can leverage that. Not in a nefarious way, but like we can leverage that. That actually frees us up in some ways to be less dependent on them. So where like in the past, if we want to reach certain employees, we have to go through like store channels. And that won't be the case anymore. So it's like,
Okay.
okay, suddenly I'm less worried about your world because I'm going to have a direct conduit to them. Or at least that's the plan. And then so to your
Yeah.
earlier comment, Rob, it's like the things you don't know. And by the way, there's never like I shouldn't say never, but it doesn't mean there's anybody's doing anything intentionally. This new platform that we're talking about, this other, I'm not going to try and promotion, but just like I'm finding out things now and I'm just like, oh shit, okay, we're gonna have to accommodate for that. Like nothing is perfect.
No.
So
No.
so anyway, so those are my naughty and nice choices for the year. That's a great question, guys. I love that question.
Yeah, it sparks a lot of internal debate. In fact, we had one of our guests on an hour or so ago, and he didn't have anyone on his nice list. It was nothing but naughty. And what I
Ah,
think one was AI, like AI, the run to wash kind of legacy technology into just, I'm going to wash this with AI. It's like adding bacon
mhm.
to an unsavory dish.
It's another great analogy, man.
I think I stole that from
That's great.
Frank
Oh,
at
that's
one
a good
point.
one.
So yeah.
I do love bacon. This is
Oh,
true.
amen, brother. You're preaching to the choir, and I'm with you. Cannot go wrong. Sorry, Rob, you were saying.
No. Just that pattern that you see, just a lot of AI washing happening with products out there where everyone's kind of making this land grab. And are they actually benefiting their applications by adding this in, or is it just noise, right? They're leading with
Mhm.
it, adding in marketing, but really it's just a veneer of things. So that was his take.
Interesting.
On that. And then I think last year, return to office, or really the execution of return to office,
Mhm.
was on the naughty list. It was on, I think, about 5 different people's naughty lists, which was, hey, this was just done sorely wrong by employees.
Mhm.
Hey, by the way, guys, back in 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever it may be, without a lot of kind of like organizational change and management greasing the wheels of communication, engagement, etc. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I have to agree with that. That wasn't great. But the AI thing, I will say, probably put AI on my nice list this year. I mean, I had we started piloting Copilot for Microsoft,
Oh,
so I'm
interesting. Yeah.
finally using it and getting a chance to see, like, to actually dig my hands into it. Part of the problem for me is like I'm a tinkerer. I need to get my hands into it and understand what the hell we're talking about. It's like, oh, AI can do this and AI can do that. It's like I think people think AI is like I don't even know what they think it is. Like they refer to it as this like magic cloud that just like appears everywhere. And it's
AI. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but I've been initially sort of disappointed with Copilot initially because I was trying to use it a certain way. And as I've gotten more familiar with it, and I'm seeing the ways that I can use it. I'm like, okay, now I can see how this is helpful to me. Um, I, and actually, here's a really sort of fun anecdotal thing, not related to Copilot, but actually related to like Google's AI platform. We had a we had a vendor work session earlier in the year for something totally different relating to like our employee feedback surveys. And they fed the data into the Google LLM and did an analysis, and it spit out a whole analysis of employee sentiment and what it was, and was like really impressive and spot on. But one of the cool features he showed us was, oh, it also will generate in real time a podcast with two
Yes.
people's voices where it sounds completely real, right? And I was blown away. I was like, damn, like it really is amazing. So yesterday on Spotify, or maybe it was the day before, I got my
Wrap up.
my wrap up. And if you go through the wrap up, now they have a podcast generated by Google's LLM that will recap for you your year. It's like it's among your wrap up like features. But that's impressive to me. Like it's spot on, you know. I'm listening to it and they're like they're talking about things like, oh, you really like, you listen to Eminem. Clearly you appreciate a good hip hop beat. Like they sound real. But I will say, I think guys who do our type of people who do our type of work, it's like, you will start to like, I'm trying to understand how is this thing working? And so there's some part of me that's like, it's reading the tag. There's obviously a whole bunch of tags on all the content. And so it's reading tags about like what type of music it is and like when things came out. So it's really come a long way.
It understands a lot of context. I mean, the context of vector searches is a ton of tagging underneath it. Yeah, or vectors. A vectored index, not to get like too into data science, a vectored index and tags are analogous. It's extra information on particular words. Let me ask you a question. We're talking about this here as we wrap up season 2. You know, Rob, as we go into season 3, are we thinking about this? This has been a digital workplace, often a comms podcast. It's been in the market. You had all the things happen to you. You had new stakeholders come in. You had operations start to exert strength, and now commercial drive the business initiatives are now important, and AI is in the mix. Are we talking to you next year? And are you doing the same thing? Are you the same Dante, or is Dante? The first Dante we met was very solidly a comms person we met at comms conferences and digital workplace conferences. Is the Dante who's on December 6th, 2025, Dante from IT operations or HRIT?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think I'm either still doing digital workplace, or aspirationally, my goal by next year would be more explicitly digital employee experience.
Is that still a comms project, or is that owned by somebody else?
I would like to see it. I believe it can live under comms. I could see it just living under, depending on how you frame it. I think it could be just under HR, but employee experience, you know, HR, I think you're going to become more like straight employee experience. One of the challenges we've had in the conversations we're having is just decoupling. Can you even decouple the concept? I don't think you can, from digital to just overall experience. But traditionally, what I've seen is employee experience includes things like employee relations, you know, and like, you know, your EI&D teams. And that's not where our focus needs to be. It needs to be on the systems and the processes related to those systems. So it's not purely digital, but it is processes around those things. Like, you know, at some future state, could we be dealing with just like straight processes? Maybe, but that's not really where my interest is. And I think you'll have there's so many processes related to technologies that I think there will always be a rich garden, so to speak, of work to do around the digital employee experience. And then again, aspirationally, I think it can encompass the work that I've already been doing. So, you know, intranet management, your digital workplace, you know, other tools and things like we're promoting concepts like increasing digital literacy, reducing digital friction. Well, you guys, I don't have to make the case to you how you see it all interconnected. So in a perfect world, that's where I'd be more explicitly by this time next year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the ideal.
Yeah.
right? Is that you're able to look at it from, we appreciate the customer experience perspective, where oftentimes if someone's looking at it very holistically, they're trying to think of customer acquisition, the customer journey from, end to end. And, less often it's the employee journey from when they wake up in the morning to when they go home at night, of how we're able to assist, enable, engage, support, etc. The systems that they're touching, how they're interacting with, whether it be operations or in a store, out of a store, desktop, going to work, hybrid, remote, thinking about it holistically. And, I think that needs to be more emphasized in organizations, because they'll put dollars and cents towards the customer experience, but then not necessarily look at it in the employee experience, who have gone through a tremendous amount of just spinning in the dryer of return to office, introduction of new tools, new policies, a pandemic that happened a few years back, all those changes that have occurred. And then certainly people not sitting in the same job from time to time. Those things need to be looked at with a much greater degree and lens. And I don't know if that's just the idealist in me or the consultant in me, who thinks that, you have to support employees throughout all of those changes.
Yeah. In Dante's case, I'm kind of curious about this. You have a largely, you're an organization that's large in retail, mergers and acquisitions taking place. I remember the first time we met you at the first conference I went to after COVID. Has this thing called COVID happened, disappeared in the rearview mirror in your world? Especially since your people are in the stores and you're in the business of merging and acquiring, and you've kind of moved past that COVID bubble, and the economy has had a couple of cycles through post. Is COVID past tense?
I mean, I think for the most part for us it is. Maybe there's some residual stuff that Rob alluded to, things like back to work, back to office rather. Maybe there's a little residual work to do there, but beyond that, I think for the most part, like, we're past it. We had, we all went through challenging times. We had reductions at the time. We've since grown. Since we've announced we're no longer trying to acquire Capri, our stock is doing phenomenally. So, everybody's very positive right now. And I think what the benefit of the work we were doing with the potential acquisition was, it forced us to look at ourselves and our processes a bit and be like, well, there is actually a lot we need to clean up before we can bring somebody else in the house. And I think what happened is that it's like, okay, they're not coming anymore, but we can't forget what we've seen here, and so there seems to be a refocus on that. And Rob, to your previous point, it's like there seems to be a real appreciation right now for the new leadership we have in what's the employee's journey. How do we make it easier to be an employee here? Because it's undeniable. People are like, you make it hard to get work done around here, from processes to also decision making. Lack of processes around those things. Like it's a challenge sometimes. So, guys, I would love to stay on, but I do have another call that I have to jump into.
No worries.
Short quickly, but it's been great chatting with you guys, and I really appreciate you inviting me. And I love the hats and like the festivity. It's awesome. I really would love to, stay in touch, and maybe next year there'll be another chance for us to talk again. That'd be great.
Always, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you. I see every next guest coming on. Have a great holiday.
Happy holidays.
Happy New Year to you.
Thanks, Dante.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Becky.
Hey.
What timing?
Wait, was Becky here and not here? How'd that happen? That's a Christmas miracle.
Christmas miracle. Hello. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. Yeah, we've had a couple guests on today. People have just been kind of coming in on the half hour marks. It's I feel like this year must be busier than most because a lot of meeting conflicts, a lot of things popping up out of nowhere. So it's a different year. Yeah.
It's busy. Last year, December was busier for me somehow, but yeah, this year's no exception. I'm still very busy.
That's great. So, Becky, we've asked everyone this question. I think we asked it last year as well. Who's on your naughty and nice list for the digital workplace 2024?
So I would say that my naughty list would be when companies or people don't have like goals in mind and we end up talking about just features.
Mhm.
I think,
Mhm.
kind of a naughty list and a sort of a nice list. I think that, you really easily lose track of what you want to accomplish and you get really caught up in like tinkering around with things if you don't have like your long-term kind of outcome and objective in mind. So I think that that's, it's obvious that that's really important. So that's why it's going on the official naughty list because I think we've been talking about this for quite some time, and I will give a bit of concession that it's not an easy thing to do. So it's why a lot of my team does what we do. But yeah, I think that's on the naughty list for sure. The nice list is how companies and how digital workplaces are bringing things together and bringing together a variety of different tools and applications and a whole technical landscape or technological landscape. So I think more organizations are starting to think about that and think about um, one particular application or system or tool is fine. But unless you make it available to people for the right purposes and context, it isn't as effective. And I think we're hearing more and more companies kind of come to that conclusion on their own, and it's certainly something that we can help with. So that's on my nice list. It's really cool to see, having been in the industry for a while now, how attitudes are changing and organizations are thinking some of the higher order thinking about digital workplaces on their own, and we get to have some really fun conversations about that. So that's on my nice list right now.
Are
That's right.
you related to both the naughty and the nice? Are you seeing different players in the room, and like the naughties are when you don't have these players in the room, and is nice new play are new players coming into the room?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that there's more it's really about getting the right, a lot of orgs are trying to get the right thing in people's hands at the right time. And they're feeling like maybe a piece of technology might be the end all be all, the thing that solves it. And so that's where we're starting to see some new players. It's like, oh, if I just have a mobile comms, or if I just have a this thing, or that thing, they're sort of feeling like one individual kind of, again, we're seeing a lot of mobile comms solutions starting to like come into the picture. That again, that's not going to be the thing that solves the problem. Like the problem you have to quantify it, you have to give it a name, you have to like think about what good is going to look like in 6 months or a year from now, and think about how that potentially new player might assist with solving it. But yeah, we are sort of starting to have conversations with organizations about how to bring new players into the fold, or yeah, also sort of mitigating risk around those.
Are you seeing in 2024 and then heading into 2025 things like return to work, return to office, um, kind of well past the mergers, acquisitions? Are these becoming bigger and bigger considerations for kind of the priorities of digital workplace conversations you're in?
Yes. So I think it's sort of part and parcel to the change in the environment and work environment, but also Igloo's focus. So we have been working really intently on serving a hybrid kind of organization that has some desk workers as well as frontline workers. So the um, the companies that we're working with more and more have a mix of both like a desk kind of contingent of the company, think marketing and comms and HR, IT, sort of more traditionally desk parts of the business, but also those with a frontline element in areas like retail and hospitality, manufacturing, entertainment, things like that. So obviously those people have been in the, in the office or at a physical workspace all along. And so that's been a really interesting challenge in not just serving, the front line and not just serving the desk, but really like that niche of the type of org that wants to build bridges between those two different types of workers, and being a holistic solution to solve both of those challenges, or sharing messaging and sharing and brokering communication between those two different types of groups. So yes, we are seeing more and more questions around how to deal with physical communications as well. We're, branching into the space of digital signage. So sort of like, using the messaging from the digital workplace and displaying it in an actually like physical space. So it's a really interesting kind of evolution of what we're doing. And part of my job is to think about like where does the message need to resonate, and where should it be delivered, and how are people going to create a dialogue around that.
Nice. Interesting. Are you finding that the audiences are both, is it on the mobile, is it both undesked, and is it also generational? As part of the move that Igloo made this year with Flex and kind of the new platform, it is obviously, if you are not at a desk, if you don't work at a desk, you don't work at a desk. But are you also seeing that some of the appeal and some of the people that you're trying to reach are people who are like mobile, digital natives who are just always on their phones?
Yeah, for sure. I think, you think about an industry. I come from the finance industry previous to my time in digital workplaces, which has been quite a few years now. And I worked actually on our intranet when I was a financial services consultant, as like a side project off the side of my desk. I launched and deployed our digital workplace even back then. And think that was like 15 years ago or something. And even then, we all had company phones, Blackberries at the time. I have to give a hometown shout out to Blackberry.
That's right.
Yeah, and we had to make sure that that it was accessible via our phones. We would often be on client site. So again, a traditionally desked industry, finances, of course. We still were like on the go and entertaining clients, or traveling from client site back to our office, and there might be something that we want to access from particularly a knowledge management perspective, but also communications. And it was really important even back then for a desk employee to have that really great seamless mobile experience. And so even more so now. I mean, that was probably back when, my family still had landlines, and I don't know many people that still have landlines. We were always on our phones. So being able to quickly look something up or get the latest and, have communication sent to me via either mobile app or a great responsive web experience is super important. And that's not going to change. I think that one thing that is really interesting is that we're still sort of seeing a lot of the administration experience being a traditionally desk experience, that a digital workplace administrator is always going to set up a page or create a new space within their intranet on a laptop. But I don't know. I kind of even see that potentially evolving, right? Yeah.
Mobile, I mean, truly mobile first.
Truly. I think that's kind of the one space that is still somewhat desk, desk leans towards desk heavily. But wouldn't it be cool if I could say, oh, hey, Wash, we need an extra page, and just like drop some widgets on a page from my phone and spin something up really quick that looks good. And I know immediately that it looks good on a phone because I built it on a phone. So I don't know. That's just sort of my ponderings for 2025 and beyond. Like, wouldn't that be a cool next thing to do?
Yeah, one
Yeah,
of the things
that's a
we heard was on Naughty and Nice list this year was AI washing was one of them. And the other one, what were the other ones, Frank? You have to remind me.
AI, the one-stop shop.
Oh yeah, the one-stop shop, meaning like the Uber blob, the Microsoft is going to solve for everything under the sun. And we got into a bit of having a conversation around it. Has digital workplace leaders started to realize that they need to treat the employee experience as the way they would treat the customer experience, really end to end, right? My customer wakes up, my customer goes to bed at night. My employee wakes up, they go to bed at night. And the touch points, both from physical, et cetera, where we're supporting, communicating, enabling, engaging them. Has that started to change and shift? It sounds like some of your customers get it. They're moving in that fashion.
For sure. I think I would say we're seeing a lot of that in the retail space. We have some really engaged retail customers and hospitality as well. That previously these types of employees were sort of like, it was like give them access to switch shifts or see their pay stub, like very much sort of, you know,
Afterthoughts.
Oh,
yeah,
those
yeah,
people.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they'll need to change shit, like very transactional and not super engaging, but it's like these are the people that are making or breaking your customer experience. So if we're giving them access in the moment to our brand and these are the new promotions that we're running for the holidays, or here's our new holiday drink that we're offering in the bar at our hotel, or you know, even just like simple information about different store locations and things like that.
Mhm.
That frees up, and this is where I get a little like esoteric, but like it frees up their thinking from doing that super like transactional, distracted work.
Folding pants.
Exactly. Into like, more about embodying the brand and really having an exceptional type of experience with for their customers. And so we're seeing a lot more investment in that and a lot more attention being paid to that type of experience. Um, and so that's super exciting for me because these are traditionally overlooked areas of the business in terms of serving them in the employee experience. And I also see it, this is getting even more heady, but I also see it as an issue of equity, that if you really want to be an equitable organization, knowledge is power, communication is power, giving a voice to people that previously didn't have a voice is power. And it sort of levels the playing field a little bit more, and it allows certain people in different types of roles to really shine and become visible across the corporation. So I'm super excited about that as well. So that's, I think, one of the things that could also go on the nice list of like giving a voice and giving knowledge to people that previously weren't part of that sort of corporate communications loop.
Okay. Okay. That is uplifting. It's a good end of the year message in many respects. Given that they are the people who make the money and serve the drinks and fold the pants and stuff like that, are the metrics changing? Are you now are you seeing operations people being in the room and saying, I want this to drive retention? Is it read rates? Is it Dow Mao? Is it employee surveys, or is it actually, we sold more drinks? Like,
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it's we're starting to really like begin to measure that and to also think about, back to the first thing that I said of like not having goals and objectives and metrics of things that you want to measure and track. It's like, how many hits did we get on this blog, or how many like likes did we get on this employee recognition? That's nice. That's great. It means people are using your digital workplace, but what return on investment are you seeing, and um, how is that showing up on the bottom line or retention? And I think that like the business impact of having an engaged workforce is something that we're trying to build more into what we're doing with our customers to show the value of buying, keeping, and nurturing a digital workplace that addresses all areas of the business. So yeah, we're really trying to guide our customers and have it track in the metrics that matter to their outcomes. So it's sort of new. It's sort of a new way of us kind of, I joke, but like
It's
sticking our
a,
business.
yeah, it's a business value. It's a business value motion in a way that was different from a comms motion previous.
For sure, for sure. And
Fantastic.
so I 100% like, I wouldn't say we have a ton of metrics from all of our companies yet, but we're seeing certainly more productivity in search results, which means more time being spent engaging with colleagues or focusing on important work that they're doing or working with their customers in a face-to-face like frontline environment. We are working with a major children's hospital, and they have like a 95%, I think, engagement rate with their population, and it's a very large hospital where they have protocols, in their digital workplace, and they have access to them in kiosks throughout the hospital. And so they're saying that people are able to find, we're seeing search results that people are able, medical professionals are able to log in, find protocols or information that they need very quickly and log back out. That's awesome to hear because we know that they're right in the hospital helping kids and, wow, what like job satisfaction that's giving me. So we're seeing sort of really good metrics around that. And it's something that we're beginning to really measure and check in with our customers about to say, what are your business goals? And let's get a baseline and let's measure it again in 3 months, 6 months, a year, and see what the story is starting to tell us.
That's amazing because oftentimes that gets overlooked, right? Is the fact that you can leverage technology for one greater good, right? Your children's hospital example, like that's a fantastic story where they're able to bring the information that they need in the moment to their cases as they walk the floor. And even if you get as, green dollar as simply, hey, if we're able to keep a better informed retail employee of knowing our promotions, access to inventory of other stores, that generates more sales. Like that's useful to have. But to your point earlier on, many leaders in their organizations don't necessarily know that those use cases are executable. Like there can be ROI defined based upon those implementations. But it's really seeing the potential that's there. Or it's like what I've seen certainly, from my years in other companies in pre-sales, it's overlooking those employees it's like, oh, those people. And unwillingness to really engage, right? Or treat them as just the employee ID.
For sure. And so, it comes back to, I think it's just a great altruistic example that I gave of the children's hospital. And they're fantastic. We love working with them. I think you guys are aware of who they are because I think you work with them too.
We work with them too.
Yeah,
they're great.
They are great. And so when we did the implementation there, I'll just, say one other thing. My team went on site. And I wasn't there. I wasn't so lucky. I went there for the pre-sales call, but my team went on site and they walked the floor with the implementation side of the project team on the children's side as well. And they got to see how the employee was going to use it in the physical space. They saw the kiosks. They said, okay, so they might be in a room and then come out and look something up, like quick login. How are they going to log in? How are they going to and so I think having that kind of like physical knowledge of what that experience would be, a life in the shoes of a children's ward nurse is super powerful. But another example, we have a retailer here. I think they're Canadian, but they have American locations as well, who they've done lots of advocacy for working with Igloo, Sage stores. They're a fantastic group as well. They'll often use the digital workplace to kind of show what their displays should look like, and it's a very brand conscious, like beautiful store. You walk in, it's like, they have natural oils and they have diffusers. I mean, it's a whole experience, right? Like,
Oh, Sage Wellness.
wellness, yes, yes. So
Yes.
they're diffusing, oil of the season, and they've got like really nice hand products. It's all quite natural wood. Like the branding is all just very on point. They'll help to show their staff to on how to set up like a display when you first walk in. And so I just think about myself. I think about being one of those staff members that has to come in on a Monday morning before the store opens or something and change the display. You might have a description, or maybe you've got a picture, or maybe you've got, some really clear instructions instead of just trying to like figure it out on your own. And you talk to that person at the end of the day and you're like, how was your day at work, dear? And they say, oh gosh, it was a nightmare. Like, I had to change everything. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to set it up. I was so like, I struggled all day with that. I didn't get a chance to do the other thing that I needed to do. Versus, yeah, it was fine. Like, I had to do the change and it was really clear instructions and I had a picture of how to do it. That makes a difference in that person's day, and that definitely has a knock-on effect on how they're going to interact with the customer when the doors do finally open and things are either looking good or they're still a bit of a mess because nobody knows what they're doing. So yeah, this is one example of how it would have an impact on the bottom line. And I think it is important work, whether you're sort of in a not-for-profit or a medical field versus something in like retail or hospitality or manufacturing.
That's a great story. I like that. It's nice to see that organizations are starting to look at ways to just help people, make them feel like the job's a bit more meaningful. I wish they had that when I was working at Radio Shack at 16 and I was counting resistors and batteries and making $5 an hour. Frank, you haven't asked your famous Christmas question that we always pull out on the holiday.
Yeah. And Becky, we understand did homework for this.
I think I know what's coming.
Yeah, you know what's coming. Becky.
Yes.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Okay. So I watched it yesterday in preparation.
First of all, let's get to, how did you not see Die Hard ever in your life?
I don't know. And so my friend, one of my very good friends, is like a very big Bruce Willis fan. And he's also a very big Christmas fan, just like goes all out with decorations. He and my very best friend in the world, they're married. They have a big Christmas party every year. And often he's playing National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation on loop at that party, which is phenomenal. He's a big Christmas fan, big Bruce Willis fan, and I still haven't seen it, and I don't know why, but he's going to be thrilled to hear that I actually watched it. So I kept thinking, like, I was really struggling with this while I was watching it. I'm like, so violent, and like, it's really not about Christmas, but it definitely is a Christmas movie. I think it.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
I think it's like this Christmas message is spread throughout. There was some very very well-placed Christmas carols, and yeah, I mean, it takes place at a Christmas party. So yeah, I mean,
it's a Christmas movie. Okay.
The Christmas movie.
All right.
Do you disagree, Frank? Do you feel like it's like, I feel like sometimes
I have a variety conspiracy theories around it. Number one, and I got a new one today too. One, I think Hollywood decided, let's see if we can float this as a thing, because now then you have that Red One that's coming out. Basically, for the past couple of years, there's been a number of movies where Santa is attacked and then he breaks out the guns and he fights back.
Oh, okay.
And so Die Hard, I think, built the genre, because before that it was never guns and Christmas didn't go together
Right.
necessarily, but since that, it has popped out. The new one that I realized, well, we found out today through Dante, was did you know that Lethal Weapon is also a Christmas movie?
Okay, I haven't seen that either. Guys, you're just
I
giving me
haven't seen
tea.
it in years.
I haven't
So
seen it at all. How is this possible?
that's an old movie. Is that 88 or 87? All right.
That's
Die Hard
very
was
old.
88 because
No, Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon.
yeah, Die Hard was 88. I looked this up last night because I love watching movies of people in their 80 in the 80s and wondering if I'm now at my current age older than they were in the movie. And I'm well older than Bruce Willis was in Die Hard. So I didn't look up how old Danny Glover and Mel Gibson were in Lethal Weapon.
1987.
Okay, so I mean that's back to back for maybe Lethal Weapon set the guns a-blazing Christmas movie genre, and we're just credited Die Hard.
Maybe. Okay.
I need to watch that now.
So there is a little bit of trivia to the famous catchphrase in Lethal Weapon. I'm too old for this.
Yeah.
I don't want to bleep or
Yeah.
edit my my podcast. Take too much time. I found out I'm older than Danny Glover was when he said that. And with
Right.
2 kids, I realized, wow, yeah, I am too old.
I'm
for
too
that.
old for that.
That's why. Is there anything in life that you're feeling like, wow, I could say this, I'm too old for this stuff?
Yeah.
Every damn day.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm picking up a lot of Legos these days saying that very thing, I'm too old for this, but yet I pick them up.
So you're not are you gonna show your kids Lethal Weapon now that it's a Christmas movie?
Well, I made sure they were definitely in bed before they're 4 and 8. So before I put Die Hard on last night, they were not sneaking down the stairs watching Bruce Willis, take control of the situation. I don't know. I haven't seen Lethal Weapon yet. I'd have to pre-watch it and then determine if it was something suitable for them. But I'm feeling
Yeah.
Yeah, especially back then, because I guess movies, I didn't know this until someone mentioned it because, it gets right by you. PG-13 wasn't a thing up until a certain year. So like movies like The Goonies and Ghostbusters, like those are not appropriate for
No. Yeah.
kids who are like under the age of 10. But the 80s was a different time, right? I remember seeing Ghostbusters though in the movie theater, and I was 5.
Yeah. Right?
Part of me says, what were my parents thinking? At the same time,
Well,
it was the 80s.
kid, look, they're not going to stop you when you. I remember watching a mother with 4 little kids watching the South Park movie, and I'm just sitting there looking back, going, "Hey, let me introduce you to Life Imitates Art, lady."
Right? Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, well, when The Simpsons debuted, I remember when The Simpsons debuted, it was a long time ago. And I was always a big Simpsons fan. But like our parents were all like, oh, it's a cartoon. And then it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was not just a cartoon. It was not for little kids. I love a good adult-based cartoon, adult humor, cartoon. So yeah.
I still catch the Treehouse of Horror every year, although I had to pre-screen the first Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, and after watching, I'm like, nope, my daughter's
Nope.
not watching this.
Yeah.
She's 8, and yeah, we're gonna have to wait. And then she was like, Dad, can I watch it? Can I watch it? I'm like, no.
Still no.
It's not a cartoon. These are not cartoons.
Yeah.
Because you'll be sleeping on my floor for the next
Right.
week or two, and I can't
Yeah,
have
that's
that.
the problem. That's it's a very self-serving reason why I'm not letting them watch their watching Ghostbusters and the like, because I mean we finally moved into Harry Potter and she's okay with Harry Potter.
Yep.
That's not causing any issues, but yeah.
The first movie, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Good one. There's some scary ones later on. It's sort of like borderline, but yeah.
Well, Becky, thanks for coming on to the show today.
It was great to see you.
Yeah, this was awesome. Really appreciate you being here. And I think you're the last guest of the day. So for folks joining us, thank you again for coming on to the Workgrid Holiday Special. And we're going to see you in the new year.